Greetings, everyone. You're welcome to the TOKUNBO FERNANDEZ show, a platform that promotes the true life story and the success stories of Africans and Caribbeans around the world, as well as history, culture, and people making a difference within the community. My name is Tony Fernandez, as I said. I'm a published writer and poet, international community blogger, and events consultant. Today, I've got a wonderful guest with me here today, and we're going to find out a bit more about him. But the show is also about learning more about history, culture, and countries as well. So we're going to be learning more, a bit about Mauritius as well on this slot. So it's a pleasure to have with us today Mr. Anzir Boodoo, based in Leeds, West Yorkshire. Welcome to the platform. How are you today?
Hi, I'm fine, thanks. Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm
and
doing
for the
okay today.
benefit
So
of
yeah.
all the listeners around the world, could you just tell us a bit about yourself and your background briefly?
Yeah, so Anzir Boodoo. I'm a freelancer working in a number of areas. I work for the environmental charity Possible, and I am part of a couple of kind of arts and art science based collectives, and I also help run Leeds Disabled People's Organisation.
It's a pleasure to meet you. And just like myself, you've lived in different regions in the country as well. You used to live in the south of England, and now you
Yeah.
live in West Yorkshire. So, for the benefit of listeners who don't know much about West Yorkshire, could you tell us a bit about West Yorkshire and your experiences moving from down south to up north itself, and what
Yeah,
people are
so
missing out on as well?
I've lived in West Yorkshire a good chunk of my life now. I first moved here to do my master's degree, and sort of different jobs and things have brought me back here over the years. So I have been in Leeds that whole time in particular, and the kind of West Yorkshire area, I guess, a sort of varied collection of towns and cities centred around Leeds. Sort of Leeds being one of the biggest cities in the UK, is quite sort of vibrant hub of all sorts of things. And I think I very much enjoy living here and the kind of things that go on in this city. And of course, one of the other great things is that we've got Bradford next door, which is another big city, but very different in character. And there's a kind of nice kind of mix and contrast between the two cities, I think.
And I believe the third official city for West Yorkshire is Wakefield as well. So
Yeah.
Leeds, Bradford, and Wakefield.
And I don't know Wakefield quite as well. I've been sort of quite a few times. I was around in the poetry scene in Wakefield around 20 years ago. But yeah, there's a lot of interesting people and things happening in Wakefield as well. I guess the sort of main thing is sculpture. It's home to the Hepworth Gallery in the Yorkshire Sculpture Park. So I think that's kind of the big draw for Wakefield, is for sculpture fans.
Yeah, and we always like to speak to people doing great work within the community. For the benefit of all our listeners around the world, could you tell us a bit about your current initiatives at the moment and what you're involved with as well, and also how people can reach you?
Yeah, so I guess sort of more on sort of the sort of campaigns side of things, I guess.
That's correct.
So yeah, I think kind of in a way sort of primary in that is my work with Leeds Disabled People's Organisation. So that's primarily local. We do work with different organisations across Europe actually, as part of the European Network on Independent Living. And we're just sort of a group that is made up of disabled people who are just trying to improve the situation, particularly in accessibility and social impacts, social events, So we run social events. We have our journal, which people can submit stories and poems and things to, that comes out every year. And we've been working on like Leeds station redevelopment and on national campaigns around independent living and social care. Yeah, we're I think kind of an interesting, diverse group of people. So that's quite been quite fun and interesting to work with.
So in terms of your network or your current initiative now, your organization, if people want to reach out at your organization, are there social media platforms out there? How do people get involved?
Yeah, so we're on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and probably one of the best ways to reach us is by email if people want to contact us.
Okay. And what's the email address? And
which is so that's leedsdpo@gmail.com.
Okay, that's beautiful.
And yeah.
Okay, great. Now, another arm of the show is also projecting history, culture, and getting to know more about our connections and our past itself. And I know you have some Mauritian heritage in you. So also people want to know more about history, culture from time to time. For the benefit of our listeners who don't know more about Mauritius, can you just give us a brief insights into Mauritius, its history, and why people should visit there as well?
Yeah, so I guess sort of probably the smallest country in Africa, that's sort of been very much involved with the kind of African Union stuff, and sort of generally, it's a small island in the sea off Madagascar, and we've got it's a very diverse culture because sort of it's an island that nobody lived on until 300 years ago. So people have, for various reasons, moved from all over the world, from Africa, from South Asia, Southeast Asia, and Europe. So we've got a very mixed, diverse culture. That's sort of very multi-ethnic. So I think one of the great things is kind of like, for example, the street food, where you'll have dishes from India and Africa and China, all available, and I guess sort of we've naturally had a bit of kind of fusion between that all. So I think it's kind of a bit unique in that regard in terms of African countries, in terms of everything is, there were no people 300 years ago. So it's entirely like an immigrant culture that's been brought and mixed together to create its own thing.
Okay. And in terms of its colonial past itself, do we see a bit of that mixture as well?
That's definitely had, I guess sort of every colonial country has had that. So it's been both the French and the British colony, but it was originally a Dutch colony before those. And so, yeah, the Dutch influence hasn't really continued on very much, but certainly the French and British influence in terms of, business, legal structures and that kind of thing. But there's this interesting kind of split because, particularly in terms of language, because English is the official language and government, business, many other things are done in English. But French is a language of culture. From actually kind of newspapers are more French than English, and films and TV and the arts are more in French.
Okay. For people who do not know much about Mauritius or who would like to listen to visit there in future, if you were to pick three reasons why someone would visit Mauritius, what reasons would you give?
Okay, so I'll probably start off with like the obvious one, I guess. Sort of Mauritius is known as being a kind of tourist hub and center, and that's kind of like a big part of our economy being geared to that. So it's sort of a well-known tourist destination, I guess, and many people are coming for the beaches, for beach holidays, um, and so that's one thing. But I think there's a great deal beyond that, and anyone who's just coming on one of those kind of typical European type package holidays where, you know, they arrive at the airport, a bus whisks them off to a resort and then back to the airport, and they don't really see the country. So it's like the kind of melting pot culture, I think, is an experience of being a part of Africa that's very different.
Wow.
Like, you know, the only African country with the majority South Asian ethnic population. It's sort of, you know, a little tight, kind of weird and out of place, but it brings to it a different feel. You know, the biggest religion is Hinduism.
Oh, wow.
And that's not the case anywhere else in Africa.
Yeah. So it's very in that sense. That's wonderful. You know.
Yeah, it's. I think it's that uniqueness. It's out kind of on its own. I mean, like, it's sort of relative isolation has helped in some ways. Like, there have only been 10 deaths from COVID, for example, in the whole country. But in other ways, it's a reliance. You know, it's still very much a reliance on things from outside and connections to other countries. But, you know, I see that as a bit of a strength. It's an island that isn't quite as insular as you'd expect a small island to be.
Beautiful. On a very final note, as you know, we're going through some very challenging times with COVID for many people, and many people are locked at home. They feel quite low in spirit. Ironically, for me, I found this period very, very inspirational and very uplifting because I've been able to gather thoughts together, be creative, and appreciate the beauty of the present moment. But for all our listeners listening today, because I know sometimes people do get a bit low in spirit with not much to do, according to them, what message do you have? Kind of like a positive message to all our listeners today in challenging times like this to give them hope.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's because I myself, I think, have I guess suffered a lot from feelings of isolation around this, kind of having to stay at home more. And I work a job that's from my laptop, so you know, not having that kind of being in an office around other people kind of thing. And I guess it's that there is, you know, it can feel very lone. It can feel very lonely a lot of the time, and I think it's good to acknowledge that the situation has led to it. But there's a lot of people and things out there. I found that a lot of friends do want to connect. That there are a number of very interesting, engaging online things going on, and as I said, the ability in the kind of flip side of this to kind of go off to another part of the world over Zoom or something. I was in San Francisco last week on over Zoom, and it's just like, yeah, it's kind of in a small way, you do have the whole world opened up to you from your screen.
That's correct. Yeah.
But I would say the other positive thing is that there are a lot of people and groups out there who can help give you someone to talk to, really engaging things to do whatever your interests. So, you know, if you do feel really boxed in and alone by the situation, that I guess the problem is there's so much out there that you almost, you know, wouldn't know where to start. But just by looking up sort of any particular interest that you might have, there are things out there and people that you can talk to and connect with. So I think that the fact that we're having this pandemic in a time where there's so much available to us online, where even 10 years ago this would have been an incredibly isolating experience for people, in a way that, you know, we've got lots of opportunities now with technology to overcome that.
Yeah. Anzir, thanks as always. Thanks for sharing your story. People, I'm sure, would like to get in contact with you to find out more about your initiatives. And it's great to have you on this platform. Once again, it's Tony TOKUNBO Fernandez here, promoting the true life stories and success stories of people making a difference in our community. Why not visit our website at www.tonyfernandez.co.uk? Or perhaps there's a product or initiative you want to promote. Give us a call on 44 788 280 9005, and we'll be happy to help. At the moment, we're also conducting Zoom sessions to motivate people and give them a sense of happiness in COVID periods, times like this when people are low. But it's nice to have you on. See you all next time, and
Thanks.
have a wonderful day. Take care.